Hi there, and welcome to Heard Online. If you have been alarmed by a recent study making the claim that insomnia may increase the risk of having a stroke, this is for you. This is Heard Online. If this is your first time tuning into Heard Online, this is an investigative series where we take a critical look at claims made online about sleep and to see to which degree they hold true or not. And this time, as many times before, the suggestion came from more than one source. I want to thank Rhoda and Kirsten, who both independently of each other sent me an email saying, "Hey, Daniel, you should look at this article." And we will do just that. We'll in fact do things in reverse order today, which I think maybe is more helpful. But anyways, we'll look at the original article, the scientific article first, and then we will take a look at how it was reported in the media. And I hope this will be really, really helpful for anyone who's been concerned about this. So here is the original article. It is published in the journal Neurology. It was published on June 7th, 2023, so just about a week ago. The title is Association Between Insomnia Symptoms and Trajectory with the Risk of Stroke in the Health and Retirement Study. I think a pretty nice title, actually, quite neutral, not very triggering. The Health and Retirement Study is one of these large, like longitudinal studies where you have a group of people. In this case, it was about 30,000 people, and I believe it's probably yearly. I don't know the interval, but with a certain interval, they ask them questions about their health, their sleep, and other things, and look for associations. That's the way it's done. So in the background, they just say that insomnia is common, and this study aimed to investigate the relationship between insomnia symptoms and the incidence of stroke. What did they do? What were the methods? Well, as we mentioned, the Health and Retirement Study is a survey of Americans older than 50 years and their spouses, and they included these years 2002 to 2020. And those who did not have a stroke at baseline were the only ones included. If somebody had already had a stroke, they were not included. Now, what do they mean by insomnia symptoms? Well, they asked the subjects here if they had difficulty initiating sleep, difficulty maintaining sleep, waking up too early, and non-restorative sleep. And I think, at first glance, when somebody says I have a hard time falling asleep, hard time staying asleep, that does sound like insomnia to me. But I want to say that it's not entirely clear. The way we define insomnia here is that it is an ongoing self-perpetuating struggle that comes from the fear of not sleeping. If we don't have that component of fear of not sleeping, it will not be self-sustaining, and we don't call it insomnia. We call that when we have sort of an external factor that causes us to have trouble sleeping, but it's not an ongoing struggle in itself. We call that a sleep disruption. And just somebody saying like I have a hard time falling asleep, that could also be a sleep disruption. It could be, from pain or from weight problems or, medical issues. Like other things can make us have a hard time falling asleep or staying asleep. That is not insomnia. So this could all be sleep disruption. Just a point I want to make as we are going through this article. And they said repeated measurements were used to identify insomnia trajectories over time, meaning they could see if like their insomnia symptoms or these sleep disruption symptoms probably were going up or down because they measured them over time. And then, of course, they investigated the relationship between insomnia symptoms and stroke events. Now, they had a total of 31,126 participants included. The mean follow-up, the number of years most people stayed in the study was 9 years. Mean age was 61, 57% were female. Now, compared to subjects with no insomnia symptoms, an increased risk of stroke was observed for those with insomnia symptom scores ranging from 1 to 4 and 5 to 10, respectively. The association was stronger in patients aged less than 50, et cetera, et cetera. So far, if you only read up to this point, you can get a sense that, there's something there. There was a link between these symptoms of insomnia or maybe sleep disruption, but some symptoms related to sleep were linked to having a stroke, which of course can be really scary, because when we hear of a link, we can think, oh, well, maybe one caused the other. But to me, like, everything is explained in the same way it is always explained when we read the next sentence, which goes as follows. The association was mediated by diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, and depression. Now, to my knowledge, depression has never been shown to cause a stroke or any other health issue, but it is different with, for example, hypertension. Hypertension has been shown to cause a stroke. And how can we know that? Well, if we can do a double-blind study where some people are given antihypertensives and some are not, and we know that when you reduce hypertension, that leads to less strokes. And it's just intuitively, if somebody has heart disease and has hypertension and has diabetes, are we surprised that they are at high risk of a stroke? Of course not. Their overall health is different from somebody who does not have hypertension, heart disease, and diabetes. Now, different question. If we take two imaginary people, which of the two do we think will sleep well, have no struggles with sleep or no sleep disruption? Is it the person who does not have hypertension, diabetes, and heart disease, or is the person who does have hypertension, heart disease, and diabetes? Now, of course, to me, the answer is the person that has several health issues will most likely have some sleep disruption and not sleep so well, and report that they have trouble falling asleep and staying asleep, and they don't feel so refreshed. Is there any surprise there whatsoever? To me, the answer is no. But I do want to give the authors a lot of credit for saying, you're putting it black and white there. They're saying the association was mediated by diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, and depression. They're spelling it out. So again, and they say it again in the discussion, that the risk was mediated by certain comorbidities. And so I think that was very honest. And I appreciate that. So essentially, they're saying that it wasn't we couldn't show that insomnia caused this, but we could show that there was a mediation. Now, what do they mean by mediated? Do they mean that if you have heart disease, you're more likely to have trouble sleeping, and the trouble sleeping that came from the heart disease is likely to have caused a stroke? If they're meaning it in that way, then to me that is just like insane. That just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Because of course it is the heart disease. The fact that there is there's some hardware issues, like there is some health issues, that of course increases the risk for another health issue, to me, not the way that they potentially could have meant that immediately. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever to me. So anyway, long story short, there's no surprise whatsoever. If we have health issues, they often cause us to have some trouble sleeping, and those health issues also increase the risk of other health issues. No surprise whatsoever there, right? But now let's take a quick look at how is this a study like this, how is it reported in media? Well, actually, there was one article from The Guardian that came in, another one from another magazine. But let's take a look at which one should take a look at. Let's take a look at this one, actually, which is from the Blue Mountain Eagle. I never heard of this journal, but they published on June 8th a story with the title "Insomnia May Raise Your Odds for a Stroke." And now it is more like a triggering title. The triggerometer is higher here. We can clearly see that. And they say the following. They start as follows. After many nights of tossing and turning, you might have more to worry about than just feeling exhausted and less sharp at work. And of course, they're alluding to the fact that, if you're having a hard time sleeping, maybe you shouldn't just worry about that, or the fact that you may feel tired. Maybe you should worry about having a stroke too. This is really, really triggering. They're really going for it. They're really trying to make us scared and worried, And the whole article, I think it's in this vein, and I just want to share maybe one or two things that I read here towards the end. And it was the the author, the main author, I think it is, let's go back here and see, Wendemi Sawadogo was the main author. And I think this is a doctoral candidate, so maybe not yet Dr. Sawadogo, but anyway, they are saying, Sawadogo said, you have good health when you have good sleep, said Sawadogo. Moreover, when you get adequate sleep, it improves your memories and your learning capacity, which kind of like the last part has kind of little to do with the story, but you have good health when you have good sleep. I would say it's more like the other way around, right? When we have a lot of health issues, they're likely to impact our sleep. When we don't have health issues, there are less things that impact our sleep, which again has nothing to do with insomnia, because insomnia has only to do with our fear of not sleeping, but sleep disturbance surely is related to other things, right? And they talked to a Dr. Dasgupta, pulmonary critical care doctor, who says the results from this study suggest that if we can target people who are having trouble sleeping with cognitive behavioral therapies, it is possible that we could reduce the number of cases of stroke. And to me, this is just so inflammatory, so so triggering. It's just there's no evidence. I see no evidence to make this claim. Like, there's nothing in the study we just looked at that suggests that if you treat people with trouble sleeping with CBT, that they would have less cases of stroke. That has to do with the diabetes, the hypertension, and the heart disease. Has nothing to do with sleep. Nothing backs that up to me. And then finally, of course, this article ends with, what can you do if you have trouble sleeping? The American Academy of Sleep Medicine offers some tips to set people up for healthy sleep. Keep a consistent sleep schedule. Go to bed early enough so that you can get 7 to 8 hours. If you can't fall asleep in 20 minutes, get out of bed. It's basically the same thing that you hear, everywhere on the World Wide Web, which we know does not make any difference if we have trouble sleeping whatsoever. In fact, we've seen so many times that these type of recommendations make us have more trouble because they lead to effort, and we know that the more we try to sleep, the less well we sleep. On the other hand, when we know that there is nothing required for us to sleep well, when we know it's not dangerous to be awake, then we sleep well. And I hope that this review of these articles have been helpful to you and allow you to feel more peace of mind and see more peaceful sleep come your way. Well, we'll conclude there. As always, let me know in the comment sections what you thought, and we will go from there. That was all for today. Bye for now.